Hello, I'm Graham Horton and welcome to this video. Today I'm reviewing a brand new flash from the company Viltrox. It's the Vintage Z2, being released on the 18th of March, so you're seeing us straight after the launch. Now this is a new flash in the current series of the miniature flashes being used to simulate what we call Y2K flashes or vintage flash. So I'm going to take a closer look at this and just how it sits in the current marketplace for these flashes. So here it is on the table, very nice presentation box, silver on black, very nice appearance, and this is indeed the Canon version, but it's also available for the Sony, Fuji and Panasonic cameras as well. So it's an on-camera flash with, first of all, 5 power levels ranging from 1/1 full power to 1/16, so that's 5 increments of power. It's a flash output power of 10 watt seconds, and that equates to a guide number of about 6 in terms of ISO 100. The focal length of this flash is said to be 28mm, so that's sort of a mid-wide angle. The T.5 seconds is 1/16,500th to 1/50,000th of a second. Color temperature is 6500 plus or minus 200 Kelvin. It can be either fully manual or in TTL, so the camera will determine the exposure automatically. It's got a built-in lithium-ion battery at 3.7 volts, 420 milliamp hours, which gives you roughly 500 flashes at full power. To charge the internal lithium-ion battery, which is a Type-C charging port, it's going to be around about 70 minutes with a 0.5 amp charge. And you can see the dimensions here, 66.7 by 38.45 by 37.1, and it weighs just 52 grams. So let me have a look at this in more detail. So let's unbox it. Inside you'll find a warranty card with 2 QR codes which will take you to the official web page for Viltrox, and here for the user manual. Now this was a pre-launch version that I got, and the user manual was in Chinese, so I'll check whether it's in the English language for English language users just before we go to launch, and I'll put that in the video description below. If not, I'll be running through the features which you can pick up from this device. So inside the box you'll find you've got the flash itself, and it's supplied with a diffuser to give you a softer lighting, and there is a standard USB-A to USB-C charging cable. So this is a fold-up flash, so it actually folds down to give you a more compact fitting to go in your camera bag. On the back of the flash you can see here we've got a band of LEDs marked A, 1/16th, 1/8th, 1/4, 1/2 and full power. We've got 2 buttons, minus and plus. These are to change the power level and also to select between auto and manual, and that's done by using the minus key, as you'll see in a moment. On this side of the flash you can see we've got the power on off and the flash test button, and the power on off button has a built-in LED which can be used to tell you when it's recycling or when the battery needs recharging. On the base we've got the hot shoe relative to the type of flash that you're using. So this is the Z2C Canon version, as you can see on the bottom here, and that will have the correct terminal pins for the Canon interface. Now the hot shoe doesn't have any locking facility, but it does have these strong spring clips built into the hot shoe, so I've not had any issues with it coming loose on my Canon camera. Here we can see the actual flash window with its Fresnel lens to project the light out from the flash tube to your subject. On this side of the flash you can see we've got the USB-C charging port which will charge that lithium-ion battery. When you turn on the flash by pressing the power button on the side here, the flash will go through a series of annunciations, and it will tell you first of all the remaining power in the battery, followed by the current power level and the current mode. So let me just turn that on. So I'm going to press and hold the side button for 2 seconds, and we can see the status of these LEDs. So when I push that, you can see it flashes 3 times to say we're in 3/4% of the battery level, and you can see we've got 2 levels here, 1/16 and 1/8. So this is at the moment in 1/8 power, and because the A isn't illuminated, it means we're in the manual power mode. If I wanted to put this into fully automatic, I just press and hold the minus key, and you can now see we're in automatic mode, and the camera will now determine the exposure. So it doesn't really matter what you've got this set in manual mode, it will just use the exposure from the camera to set the exposure. If I wanted to go back into manual mode again, just press and hold the minus key until the A disappears, and now you can change the output power by using the plus and minus keys to give you the output power that you need. So you can go from 1/16 all the way up to full power. Put it back into automatic mode again, just press and hold the minus key. When you do a flash power test, you'll notice that the green indicator turns red during that 2.5 second recycle time, and then it will go back to green. So let me just do a test. Quick depress of the button, and you can see after 2.5 seconds the green indicator will come back on. If that stays on red, it means it's recharging, and if it's flashing, it means that the flash is too hot and needs to be cooled down. So let's install this on my Canon camera, and I'll show you how it works and how you can use the Canon interface to control the flash power in TTL mode. So here I have my Canon EOS M50 Mark II. The flash will just slide onto the hot shoe of the camera like so. So now the flash is installed, the camera is folded down. So to bring that up, you just pull it up. So it's like a Cobra head flash on the old style cameras. The beauty of this is that the distance from the flash head to the center axis of the lens is quite large, so you're not likely to get red eye with this flash. Pop-up flash units on its own normally sit at that height, and you've got on axis reflection back from the back of the iris and you get red eye. Here, because the flash is so much higher, you get rid of that red eye, so you don't need any extension pillars here to raise the flash. So a great design point from this particular camera. So I'm going to take a picture in my workshop here of my very untidy microprocessor section. So I'm just going to zoom in for a moment and set the focus there. The flash sets the exposure to 1/60th, which you'd expect through the interface. I've got an aperture of f5, no exposure compensation from the flash, so let's just take that. And that's a pretty reasonable exposure. From the Canon interface, if we go into the menu, you've got flash control. If I just enter flash control, you can see we've got flash firing on or off, so at the moment it's set to fire. The mode is evaluative, which you would normally use. Synchronization is from 1/60th to 1/200th. Built-in flash setting, the one we want is the external flash function setting. So I press menu set on there, you can see that we're in eTTL mode. We're in first curtain sync, and at the moment we've got a exposure compensation set from the camera of +2. Now there's no way of setting exposure compensation on the actual flash itself. You use the plus and minus buttons, but that doesn't work. But you can use exposure compensation from the Canon menu. Now that might be true of that facility might be true of the other cameras such as the Nikon or the Panasonic, but I haven't been supplied with any other device except this Canon one, so I can only validate that for the Canon camera. So again, if we're in there and I change this to back to the 0 point, so there's no exposure compensation, so I'll just take that shot again of the workshop, and you can see that was a little bit underexposed, and that's why I use the exposure compensation for that first shot. If I wanted to use this in the manual mode and set my own exposures, then obviously I'm going to press the minus button here to go into manual mode, and I'm going to try an exposure of 1/2. So it's a bit of a chimping exercise here, so we'll look at that. Now that exposure doesn't look too bad at a power level of 1/2. Remember, the guide number of this is 6 meters at ISO 100, so you can use the old mathematical formula of working out what the exposure would be using that guide number of 6. Now in my flash tests I found this to be fairly consistent at around guide number of 6. Let's have a look at some shots that I've taken with this camera. Some to augment or ambient light, so I've set up some flowers and I've used ambient light plus some supplementary light from the on-camera flash, and I've been using the soft diffuser to soften down the shadows. You can see from some of these shots it does give you some really nice lighting effects. Now you can use the flash off camera if you really wanted to get some better lighting by using an extension cord, so you can use the Canon extension cord for the Canon camera obviously, and it will allow you to move the flash off camera and still maintain flash exposure, compensation from the camera and TTL control. So with the head being pivotable, you can actually change the angle if you wanted to use this close in. So you can see we can direct the flash from an angle of almost parallel with the lens axis to an angle for closer work, so you can use this in that mode. It will spring down if you get down below sort of 15 degrees, but from sort of horizontal to sort of minus 15 degrees you can set the angle for those close-up shots. So even though this is only a guide number 6, it does give you some good close-up lighting effects, and it is good for portraiture as well, up to sort of 2 to 3 meters away. You're not going to take great group shots with this because of the power level and the size of flash head, but for general photography, parties and such, where you want to just take some keepsake pictures, then I think this flash would be ideal. Been using it now for just over a couple of weeks and I've had no issues with it. Very easy interface to use, and charges very easily through that USB-C port and folds up flat. Do recommend you use that soft diffuser. You will lose a little bit of light power, but it does give you that softer shadow, so I would recommend that you do use that. Well, that's it for this review. Thanks very much for Viltrox for sending me this out to review for you. Of course, it's an independent review. I don't take scripts and I'm not told what I can and cannot say. Viltrox haven't seen this before I published it, so you are seeing it as I produced it. So I do recommend this flash unit if you're in the market for one of these vintage flash units to go with your small mirrorless camera or even your compact camera if it has a hot shoe. So remember, it's available in Canon, Nikon, Fuji and Panasonic, I do believe, at the time of launch. So until the next video, thanks very much for watching. Please do take care, and I hope to see you all very, very soon. Goodbye for now.